Hello? See if you can see. How do I add screen? Hello? Testing? How do I open this again? Hello? Alright. Alright, so we'll be starting the Sprint 2 stream soon, where we'll be basically just watching the top leaderboard and kind of just talking about the matches. You guys can like comment in Discord or Twitch stream if you want to have any questions or you want to talk about anything. Yeah, and it's supposed to be just a very casual stream. I wonder if I can put my webcam here. Is that possible? Oh, there we go. I am in there now. Chat. Okay. Chat. Webcam. Alright, so this is what the current leaderboard seems to look like. We have Team Ryan Andy, which is at a whopping 3,000 points. And then we have Team Harm Wisman, Siesta Guru, Tiga, Demos, Loma. These teams to be all competing kind of for a sprint award. So the sprint award, for those who aren't aware, is given to the top two teams by the end of each month. That haven't won it yet. So actually last month these two teams won it and they're still at the top. The teams that haven't won is everyone below. So the people who might be in contention are these four teams. So we might start watching some matches and looking at what they're doing. So let's first look at what's making this bot so good. They have been winning almost every match and stormed ahead with like 3,000 plus ranking points. So let's see. Yeah, what is going on here? Bovar was also going to join me today, but unfortunately couldn't make it today all of a sudden. So it'll just be me streaming. Yeah. I hope this is not too slow for people. My computer might not be super strong enough, but let's see what happened here. So it seems like a general meta from all the top bots is that everyone uses all of their metal to build a heavy and a couple lights. And it seems like they use all the units to do everything almost. So we can see red team here is using their lights to probably mine stuff as well. Yeah, some of the lights are mining things too. Our Andy is doing something different. But interestingly, we can see some very different strategies here. Even though these two teams grow the same amount like it, the amount of power kept in each robot is much higher for Ryandy, which is an interesting feature. We don't see and the reason why I mention this because Lycan is what gives you extra power to power your robots. The more Lycan you have, the more power you get. So potentially somehow Ryandy is generating more power than the other team. Oh, actually looking at this curve, it actually seems like Team Red here keeps a lot of power in the factory instead of giving it out, which could be a sign of inefficiency. Yeah. Let me fast forward this. Interestingly, Team Red sent 2 robots very far away to dig something. Dig iron? That's actually very, very interesting. Why did they go all the way there? Oh, and actually they're not digging up any iron. That seems like a bug. Okay, so for some reason they're trying to dig up ore, but we're not actually seeing them dig actually any ore for some reason. Okay. So once they dug a bunch of stuff, what do they do with it after? Oh, and they also use the recharge action, which basically lets your agent try to rest in the action queue until it has enough power to do something again. It seems like some teams find it useful. We're noticing some very, very long, not super complex, well, some of these are kind of complex, but very long action queues of picking up power, transferring, and so forth. Interesting to see what they're doing. We actually can notice some interesting strategies here. At the top left here, Team Red, they have one light constantly picking up power and transferring power to the heavy unit on the left. This is allowing the heavy units to constantly dig, which saves you on movement time. It could be critical in the game. It seems like multiple teams do this. So we look at, actually, no. How does Team Blue transfer resources? Do they ever transfer resources? So Team Blue actually doesn't use that efficiency, which I'm actually surprised by. Maybe it's just to save some power? Actually, I don't really know. Transferring is free. Well, this is kind of a scary thought to think of, because Team Blue here is at the top of the leaderboard, and there's quite a lot of things they're not doing that could be making things more optimal, like using lights to transfer resources. But let's keep watching. So it seems like a fairly even match, and it's only until around turn 400 where Team Blue starts to really get a ton of Lycan. I'm very curious, what is their logic behind deciding when to grow more Lycan? It seems like Team Red. Oh, okay. We can tell. Well, we can see why Team Red here actually started losing. So for those who are new, thank you, Tiga. So there was a question I had earlier about why these units couldn't get any ores because they're digging down rubble. So this is a very interesting aggressive strategy. Recently, we saw lots of some aggressive kind of tactics where if you look at bottom left, it's all nice and peaceful with lots of Lycan being grown here, but suddenly Team Red is charged down by a bunch of lights, and they're all kind of like shifting back and forth to fight each other. So Team Blue is probably trying to collide into the red unit, but also doesn't want to get destroyed itself. But even though they don't destroy the red unit here that's mining ice, it does enough harassment to prevent them from ever mining. So effectively, once Team Blue has started attacking this red base, they haven't protected themselves very well, and as a result, Team Red can't actually mine any more water. So you might notice that some of this Lycan, let's see, this factory won't be generating more water. And we also notice another aggressive strategy, attacking strategy, is their units will also dig out Lycan. So we haven't seen it here. These units are still fighting. I think, we actually see some Lycan already. How is this Lycan added? So this was some Lycan here. And, there's one rubble. Where does this rubble come from? Yeah, we don't have animations. This makes things hard. So unit 42. Oh, it looks like there's a collision here. That's unfortunate. An interesting facet of the part of the rules of this game is that this all is Lycan, which generates you power and also can use points to win the game. If it's not connected in a straight connected adjacent, like it's not connected to your factory by adjacent Lycan tiles, it will stop growing. and you can't water until you reconnect it. So you'll notice an issue here is like this liken's 100, right? Over time, it keeps cutting down to by one every turn, until it's all gone. And this is a very effective way of cutting out someone else's lichen field, to basically make them lose points, generate less power, and yeah, that was actually quite aggressive and powerful. All the lichens gone here now, and this factory is probably kind of dead in water now. It has 22 water. I wouldn't be surprised if it runs out and blows up. And there we go. So we just saw a factory blow up. Whenever a factory blows up, it disappears from the map and leaves behind a lot of rubble. And now all these little red robots probably don't know what to do. I guess Team Red here could send them over to the other factory to try to save their game, but they're basically as good as done. So let's just watch the rest of the game. Team Blue is doing a great job at growing their massive lichen field. Perhaps Team Red could try to be aggressive and try to attack them, but it looks like Team Blue is cleaning up and just removed all of the lichen as well. So you also, for newcomers, you'll notice there's blue units and red. There's circles and squares. Circles are light units, squares are heavy units. And actually, I'll give you guys a sneak peek in some of the art we've made recently that kind of has similar style. The heavy units basically do everything more quickly. They mine more, they can dig out more rubble, they can dig out more lichen, but they cost more to do everything. So there's an interesting dynamic where you have to balance building lights and heavies, and you'll notice both these teams are building both units, which is great to see. There's value in both of these units just by having the same action spaces. So yeah, that was a very interesting game. Team Red completely got kind of just cut off from drawing anything. Yeah. Let's see, and also I'm gonna go open up our visualizer. We have a in progress one that's still being worked on. Very much work in progress, but it'd be nice to see some of the stuff we've been working on. Let's see, terminal. Let's try. Oops. Nope. npm dev. All right, let's go to another again. Let's see how leaderboard looks right now. So yeah, currently, if these two teams are top, third and fourth place will get the sprint awards. Ryandy and Harm can't get any more since they won it already from last sprint. So there's really a tight battle here. Very few points separate these teams. So let's look at this visualizer. Okay. I'm gonna have to drag things to watch it. So let's look at another match. Let's look at a match between the kind of this other pack, so Siesta, and let's see if there's one against Tiga. These two are definitely fighting for the sprint award as well. So, who do they play against? Maybe I'll look at Tiga. Oh, errored again. I've seen this team seems to error a couple times, which I'm not sure what is this from. I'm curious what the error is from. Oh, that's a lot of light robots. Okay, maybe this is an interesting match to watch. I have a sneaking suspicion that Tiga's team probably could have won this game. If they self-destructed like maybe half the light robots, and when you self-destruct a robot, it drops rubble and destroys lichen, they probably could have cut off all the lichen in this game. So maybe let's take a look at this game. And which bot is this playing against? Is this playing against... it's playing against one of his weaker bots, but still very impressive nonetheless. So let me try downloading this replay, and you can watch it on the new visualizer. That is very much in progress. Oh, this is a very, very massive file. This might take some time. Oh, Tiga in the chat mentions that I push a few versions in debug mode, which throws errors rather than handling them. Wow. Maybe that's worth fixing. Another thing interesting to note, I think Tiga's doing this. I think he's one of the only JavaScript teams or TypeScript teams. There's another team that's fairly up top as well that's doing JavaScript as well. But I think it's fairly impressive to see a JavaScript agent compete against all the ML agents and Python agents and C++ agents out there. Actually, just looking at the leaderboard, I think Ryandy is Python, Harm Weisman is Python, Siesta Guru is C++, Tiga is JavaScript. Demos is an interesting one. They are also Python, but they're actually a reinforcement learning bot, and I can explain why you can kind of suspect reinforcement learning. The next three teams, I'm actually not quite sure what kind of bot they have, but yeah, time to try watching this on the other visualizer. So, oh, TypeScript. Okay. So we are usually every season we have a bunch of art for the visualizer. This season our art is a little bit delayed. It's been taking a lot of time to make, but looks very cool. So this art made by our designer just makes it look like Mars. That's the main thing. There's some things that's still not being done yet. Like, for example, the ore tiles aren't quite finished, and actually the robots aren't quite finished, but I can show you what the robots look like. So let's look at this match between Tiga and Andy. So they immediately start. Tiga here. Oh, the colors are mismatched. I need to fix that. They each have 4 factories. Curious what the strategy is for placement. One of the interesting things this season compared to last season is that there's asymmetric maps, and factory placement is quite important. You need ice tiles to kind of supply yourself water and ice, which you convert to water to keep your factories alive and go lichen. But you also need these ore tiles, which are black, to kind of collect ore, create metal, and then kind of build more robots. Well, let's just see how this game plays out. And you guys will see this soon, but the lichen graphics are really, really nice. It's very interesting to see how it grows over time. So let's see how this goes. So Ryandy actually has a red factory, it's a little bit confusing. Yeah, they're all growing. Definitely, Ryandy seems to be building. Actually, they're building about equal amounts of lichen. It seems like. Yep. Yeah. So nice art. You can see like a nice kind of gradient in the lichen. Really highlights kind of the terraforming facet, I guess, of this game. I think a lot of people kind of forget this is actually a Mars themed game, but the assets we use right now are minimal. So this converts it basically all to Mars themed. Yeah. So it's a kind of sneak peek of the visualizer. We can share more in the future. Let's go back to watching the original game here. So all right. So some interesting strategies we notice here. Tiga uses chains of robots to transfer resources. We can take a quick look at this. But if you look at this light unit here, it's transferring power to its right. This unit is also transferring power to its right. This unit is also transferring power to its right. And then this unit is just simply digging. And I think after a couple steps, you'll notice it will begin to transfer resources back. So we'll see here, the heavy unit on the right is transferring resources to the left. And we're going to start slowly seeing a transfer chain of resources. And actually, I'm curious, does Tiga's bots plan for this? They even plan for this. So each of these units have an action queue shown below, and you can see here that the next action you're going to take is transferring power to the right, and then because they know the heavy is about to transfer ore to the left in the future, this unit is also preparing to do the same thing. And I wonder if these units have planned this too. Oh, they also have planned to transfer ore as well. Very interesting. How far does this plan go? Oh. Okay, I think Tiga has a very interesting strategy. They have like a 2-part kind of action queue where they always either transfer power or transfer ore, which means they don't need to plan to super complicated like 20-step action queues for long change. They can just keep doing alternating the same thing. And you might also notice that they're actually alternating this infinitely. So there's a repeat bit here. When repeat equals 1, that means you want to repeat. Whenever you finish this action, you put it back to the end of the action queue and keep repeating it. So actually, this unit is constantly transferring power and transferring ore. So you kind of have this like kind of mining chain, which is very interesting and very efficient. So let's see. Yep. Oh, we just noticed some interesting crunch here. So I just saw Team Blue's lights try to kind of break up the chain and just broke it. But I wonder, how does Tiga's team handle this? So they're trying to fighting a little bit right now. It seems like eventually they formed the chain again. Oh, wait, actually the factory broke. It just blew up. I guess this set of robots are kind of dead now. So what do they do now? I'm curious. You have rubble here, and then... Oh, your heavies are not doing anything. Okay. Interesting. I wonder if it's even possible, like, given the fact that, let's say, one of your factories died, is it even possible to save your game? Like, maybe send all your units back to another factory to help them. Who knows? But actually, it seems like maybe these units are trying to harass this factory and prevent them from mining too much stuff. But otherwise, yeah, interesting game. You might also notice that in liking fields, there's often like a split or a line separating them. For the sake of like determinism and simplicity with like the watering cost of a liking field, we don't allow liking fields from two factories to merge, because that just makes things too complicated. To calculate like how much water does one factory contribute and how much water does another factory contribute. So we decided just to make the liking fields all separate, and you only water whatever's connected to your factory. But that's a lot of light units. That's 150, all being controlled by one policy. Interesting. Yeah. Tiga says, my factory placement sucks, big thing to work on. Yeah, I'm actually not even so sure how advanced other people's placements are. If anything, it seems like Ryan doesn't care if they place first or second, because if they bid nothing, I assume it just means that they don't want to worry too much about factory placement. They're very much reactive too. They seem to just first place, okay, what's the best location, and then maybe they're placing some factories near the opponents just for as a reactionary kind of a move. Not super sure. It also seems like people will always place factories kind of near ore and ice, which is critical because you want to be able to mine both things in order to succeed. You need ice to get water to grow lichen to power units, and you need metal to build more units to then get more lichen. So, yeah. And we can take a quick look at the units. So these are what are, oh, graphics are too small here. Let me see if we can get the bigger version up. Where are our assets? Nope, not this folder. Source assets. So we can look at some of these. Yeah, these are what some of the units look like. These are all drafts, by the way. We haven't added color to them, and we're still kind of debating what the design should be like. But they generally resemble what you might see in the minimal one, but very interesting. So yeah, you can see this little robot with an antenna on top. Let's look at the rest. What else is at the top? We haven't seen the match between Siesta Guru yet, so I'm curious what they're playing at. So their team, let's look at a game between them and Ryan Andy. How do they face up against him? So far we've seen Ryan Andy, top bot. We've seen some interesting strategies already. Tiga has a kind of chain transfer. Ryan Andy seems a very aggressive kind of attacking kind of strategy, where they'll basically cut off all your lichen. And actually, just looking at this graph right now, it seems like they probably stopped Siesta Guru from growing any more lichen. It seems like their lichen started growing down, and I assume that's because they got cut off. But let's see. Is our prediction correct? This is around turn 100. What happens here? So, let's look at the factory placement. Alright, so who bid? Did anyone bid anything? Siesta Guru bid 11, and Ryan bid nothing. So it seems like Team Ryan really doesn't care about bidding. Someone asked a question, Mick Shipman. Anyone know if this will be available to review later? Yeah, so this sprint will be recorded, and we'll be uploading as a VOD to YouTube, our YouTube channel, which is at, if I can find it. It's very difficult to find sometimes. Yeah, here's our YouTube channel for anyone who wants to see it. Yeah. So looking at the factory placement, same idea. People tend to place things near ice and ore. It seems like Siesta Guru had the better pick of the choices. They got good locations near ice and ore. Some of Ryan Andy's locations are a little bit too far away from ore, but let's see how he deals with it. Maybe he digs a tunnel out. And there's an issue to be too far away. Even though it takes like one turn to move one tile, it costs a lot of extra energy to traverse like high rubble. So you know some of these tiles have like 60 something rubble. And actually immediately we see that Ryan Andy is starting to build some tunnels. They're digging out the rubble from these cave walls. And this actually allows not only their units to move faster on these rubbleless places, but also to kind of grow lichen. A big problem in this game this season is finding space. You kind of need quite a bit of open space. like 0 rubble tiles. That's like open space. Those are tiles where you can grow lichen. Lichen can't grow onto rubble tiles, so you kind of see some of this lichens getting shaped by these kind of darker tiles. But yeah. Yep, so they kind of dug a hole all the way down here. And they might be able to access some more space, but it seems like this top left factory really can't grow too much. And I wonder if building the factory at the bottom left was a mistake or not, because I feel like this has no ore nearby, and there's also like very little open space. And since there's no ore, this bottom left factory's only purpose is to mine ice and get water, and then grow lichen. But there's not a whole lot of space down here. They're really gonna have to mine quite a bit. Maybe they can mine out to this section, which is easy to mine out because it's all kind of 17, 18 amounts of rubble, which is not a lot to mine out. They could also mine out this section, but this might be hard to grow lichen. Whereas top left location here is actually a pretty good spot because you have quite a lot of open space to grow lichen, which means less time spent on digging. So we're gonna see this. Interestingly, it seems like actually all these factories here haven't done anything. There's a lot of open space here, but nothing's happened. So what happened here? It seems like, Team Red, the aggressive bot, is doing a pretty good job at preventing this factory from even growing any growing any lichen. I mean, they have water, but it's constantly going down because no one can deliver water back. Oh, they deliver some back. They deliver quite a bit of ice, actually. But yeah, it's not going to be enough. This heavy here is causing a lot of problems. Here's how much power this has. This has 15 power. Oh, a 15 power heavy is very easy to destroy. Okay, this could be interesting. For those who are new to the game, there's a collision mechanic that's not super trivial, but the general idea is that heavies will always crush light units if they move to them. And the other idea is that whenever you move a unit to a tile, any units that are standing still get destroyed, and any unit moving onto it survives. If there's more than 2 units moving onto a tile, then we do a collision check. We basically check whichever unit has the most power survives. So looking at this factory heavy here, this is the closest one to this heavy here, and this heavy only has 15 power, which means any heavy with more than 15 power moving onto this tile will destroy this heavy immediately. So this heavy, I would feel like will cause a lot of problems in the future, and maybe you can track it over time. So unit 15. So this heavy is actually going back home now, which could have been destroyed by another heavy probably. And now it's back home, it's recharged back, and now it's very hard to destroy. But destroying a single heavy is a pretty big detriment, kind of penalty onto a team's resources, because building a heavy is costly. It costs 100 metal, which costs 500 ore to convert into, which takes a lot of time to mine out. But perhaps it could have been a game-winning thing, using the heavy to destroy this heavy, make a dent into the metal collection, something like that. But yeah, this seems like that's the story of this game. Lots of red units, light units harassing the area and digging out lichen. Maybe it would have been a good idea for this team to send units to the top left as well. But yeah, it seems like Ryan's strategy is really very much powered by early aggressive tactics and making it almost impossible for the enemy to defend against. Alright, so that seems to be how this game goes out. It seems like Siesta ends up being able to grow some lichen, but damn, you can see these heavy units are very fast at removing lichen. In fact, heavy units remove lichen instantly. They can remove 100 at a time, and you can only have 100 maximum. So if you don't have your own heavies protecting your lichen fields, it would be very difficult to defend against. Because yeah, and wow, they actually grew up a lot of space. At the start of the game, there's like no space at the top left, and Ryan just dug it all out. So it's quite impressive to see all this grow up. Anyway, they terraformed Mars. Even though they're competing against each other, at least they kind of collectively did it. Let's take a look at the reinforced learning agent. So this is quite interesting. Let's look at them play against a team that we haven't seen before. Demos against Tiga. We've seen this multiple times. Okay, Loma. So these two teams are in contention potentially for Sprint Award, which we'll be announcing in half an hour. We'll release the results then. Let's see. So this is one of our map generations, and for those who are new, we actually have 2 types of maps. This is one of them. We have 2 variants, one called Cave that looks kind of like a cave, and one called mountain, which kind of looks like a mountain range. And the way we generate the maps is a little bit interesting. We kind of try to generate, like for cave maps, we try to generate like ice on the walls of the, on ice on the walls of the cave. Like the borders between low rubble and high rubble. For mountains, we kind of generate a lot of like resources at the center top of the mountain. So you notice all of these ice tiles have a ton of rubble on them, which have to be dug out. But it would be interesting to see if any team actually thinks it's worth building near this ice, because there is quite a lot of ice tiles, but you might not be able to use all of them. And also, given the fact that there's so much rubble on top of it, you might not be able to use it in time. Let's look at this. Demos likes to bid 5 and try to go first, so they do go first. And let's see where they build things. I'm not sure if their factory placement is powered by machine learning. It could be rules. And they probably have a hybrid bot of some sort where they use reinforcement learning for some parts of the game and rules for the rest. Let's see where they spawn. So they spawn right next to 2 ice tiles. Loma spawns kind of near this open space here, which is very open actually. Mountain maps tend to have a lot of open space, which means a lot of lightning growth potentially. Alright, so this game you can only spawn 2 factories each. Every game, we give you a maximum number of factories you can spawn that are kind of like sent from Earth. In this game, we randomly chose 2. Interestingly, the very first step and the very first action of Team Demos is to grow lichen, which I don't know if this is optimal, but this is actually kind of evidence a little bit that Team Demos is actually an RL agent, because they do some rather irrational actions. I think it is in most people's opinion, the most optimal thing to do first is to build a heavy unit. Whether or not it's actually truly optimal is an open question, but yeah, I mean, usually you want to use a heavy to start mining things, but we can kind of tell this agent's bit random. Agents that are super random are kind of evidence that they're using some kind of like non-deterministic policy. So probably what happened here is that when they generate an action for this factory with their RL agent, it probably accidentally thought, hey, I should grow a little bit of lichen. So they grow lichen for 1 turn. They water again, and then they don't, and then they build a heavy. Okay, interesting. Given these kind of like small mistakes, I'm actually very surprised that Team Demos is so high up. We'll have to kind of investigate what kind of strategies they're doing, because if I also recall correctly, they don't build light units. Yeah, most other teams in top will build light units, but Team Demos would build no light units. Yeah, Tiga mentions the use case for why spawning heavy first is good. And indeed correct. Heavies would generate 10 power every turn. Whereas like just now, Team Demos waters lichen a little bit. They'll gain like 4 extra power, like 1 power for each tile. And that's not a whole lot of power compared to building 1 heavy. So for sure, yeah, building a heavy first is better. You generate more power and you don't waste water. Because these lichen tiles, if you're not constantly watering them, will die over time. So yeah, so let's see how Demos is actually able to win. Because immediately it looks like Loma is quite aggressive. They've already sent a unit over, and I think that unit has been mining things. But looking at this kind of tail here, it seems like Loma doesn't grow enough lichen, and they get overpowered. But let's see. So immediately Loma is building quite a few units, and they're mining ice and yeah, just a ton of ice. So if we're looking at kind of the initial kind of stats here, it seems like Loma definitely gets more water at the start of the game. But how come they have less lichen? I guess they've just been stocking up water the whole game. Perhaps this is a signal that they shouldn't be stocking as much. Even though this R agent will occasionally make some random mistakes, like growing lichen when it shouldn't be, it does in the long run seem to have learned something fairly optimal with just mining ice. And I think they have some aggressive tactics later, but they're very efficient at mining ice. Even though they don't have light units, they're still able to kind of keep up. And so we're starting to notice they send their units out to mine ore and ice, which is quite impressive to see trained by RL. And they start building their next heavies. So let's see how these fare. So this one is generating lots of power to fuel their heavies. And actually, maybe this is probably why Team Blue lost. Team Blue isn't growing any lichen, and without the extra lichen, it's very hard to power these heavies like for full time. You'll probably notice that these heavies are mining every turn almost, whereas these heavies here are mining maybe once every few turns. Yeah, you can notice that this heavy here, this is not a heavy. Where is the heavy that's mining things? Oh, this heavy here, I think. Yeah, it has a lot of power. Oh, it's all gone all the way there. It has a lot of power, but it takes a lot of time to like, go back, and then you have to wait for the factory to generate enough power to fuel it again. Whereas these factories here, they have a lot of lichen here, which adds to their kind of power generation. It seems like they get an extra like 50 power turn in this factory. You start with 50, and they got an extra 50 for this lichen. They're able to kind of power these two heavies quite efficiently. So let's see as the game go on. What goes on here? We're turn 304. So at this point, yeah, Demos has a lot of lichen, but they start losing at some point. So we're starting to see Team Blue be quite aggressive, and it actually looks like from this position, Team Blue is going to win. They have more heavies, they have more lights. Even though they have less lichen, they're about to destroy all of the opponent's lichen. So I'd be very surprised to see Team Red win here now. The interesting thing is, I don't see a lot of teams are able to kind of destroy opponent robots, because it's quite difficult actually. In order to destroy an opponent robot, your heavy has to move onto the same tile they move onto, in addition to having more power than them. Which is quite difficult, because sending a robot from one factory to a very far location takes power to traverse over the bubble if you don't delete it or remove it beforehand. And they can always kite. So you often see like these heavies like kite each other, or light units kite each other. So we're seeing this right now. This red heavy is kind of running away, even though I don't think it needs to. Let's see. Yeah, this red heavy actually doesn't need to run away. But well, it does need to run away, because if you stand still and if someone moves onto you, the mover wins. So they're kind of running away a little bit. Oh, and actually, maybe the red unit is chasing the blue one. But I'd be interested to see more teams potentially use multiple units to try to break a unit. Because obviously with one kind of heavy, let's say targeting another heavy, it's very easy to run away. You kind of need to close them down and find a tight space to like make sure they can't run away entirely. And in general, I think it's very easy to predict the movement of the opponent heavy. But you can't do anything with that information because you don't have another heavy working with you to like chase it down. Like these heavies here, I don't think they need to be bothering. Well, maybe they should mine some more ice and get lichen, because this doesn't have enough power to power these heavies. Oh, do we have bots in this? Someone's like spamming things. Hi, improve your channel on. Oh, this seems like spam. I don't know how to remove this actually. Okay. Well, it looks like they're not spamming anymore. Yeah. Anyway, be interesting to see people with more stronger collision kind of strategies. But it seems like blue is actually doing a very good job at least deleting all the opponent's lichen. And I think with this little lichen, this factory can't support all these heavies. There's like 10 heavies. There's no way you can support that many with just 50 power turn from this factory. But what do they do next? So we're at turn 656. So at this point, it really looks like Team Blue should be winning. So how do they start losing? Does Team Red start attacking maybe? It could be. Both teams have very little lichen. And it seems like Team Blue is not getting a lot of lichen for some reason. Okay, so they're sending some of their heavies over, and that just kind of stopped all of their mining altogether. I'm surprised. What happened to all the heavies? They lost like 5. Did they get destroyed? Maybe Team Red is really good at destroying heavies. So we just lost a heavy at this turn somewhere. Okay, interesting. So this heavy here, did it run out of power? Why is it not moving? It ran out of power. Okay. This is another strategy to destroy enemy robots. And this is why defenders have an advantage. Because if you're a defender, you're closer to your factory, which can give you all the extra power you need. So this heavy went too far out, and now it got destroyed. Yeah, it had no power to move, and it actually didn't try to move. And as a result, it got smashed. So yeah, it seems like Team Blue just lost all their heavies, and now they can't mine anything effectively, which means no more new heavies. They're not super effective at kind of stopping lichen though. It seems like this lichen is still growing to some extent. Oh, now it's all gone. Okay, this game was actually kind of close. If this game went for like maybe like 100 more turns and they did a better job of clearing out the lichen field here, I think Team Blue could have won. It just seems like it took too long to clear it all out. Yeah, I think people still don't use self-destruct strategies, which immediately remove the lichen. And you have so many blues here, you could just self-destruct everything here, probably. But yeah, interesting to see. Let's see another game. So what is the current leaderboard like now? Is there any change? So right now, Siesta Guru and Tiga are still on track to win the next sprint award. Yeah. Let's see, has first place ever lost a game? Oh, they're losing some games now. Maybe let's look at a game where they actually lost, because it seems like their team is unbeatable. Let's see. Okay, we have another mountain map. Let's see where people spawn things. And this game actually ended very early. Oh, they won because Team Blue actually broke. Yeah, Team Blue had some error. Yeah, they errored out. Maybe let's look at a game where neither of them errored out, because I think the errors are kind of like not that interesting. Yeah, but we could. I mean, let's just see how the game progressed. Oh, Team Red might have won anyway. It looks like they're actually very, very tight in terms of lichen growth, but Team Red had way more metal and much more units. They have much more capabilities here. Let's look at this one here. Yeah, but this game was actually quite tight, but it seems like Team Red somehow was able to build a lot, get a lot more metal. And it seems like they were just mining metal early on. Maybe better placement. Placement's alright. Alright. Let's look at this game. Okay, this probably looks like Team Red probably cut off their lichen field as well, but let's see how it goes on. So, where will they spawn? So they have one placement right next to ore and ice. Great. I'm surprised they didn't go for this location because this is even more ore and ice. You can probably actually support like 2 factories here if you placed it correctly. And then you have 2 factories up here which are only mining ice, I guess. And then you have 1 factory here which is like kind of surrounded by 2. So I'm actually a little bit curious to see, okay, how these 2 factories kind of counter this one. And also, I'm actually a little bit surprised, but I'm surprised people aren't like giving, what's it called? Asymmetric resources to factories, because it seems like everyone likes to default to giving equal amounts to every factory. But somehow I believe that, let's say you put a factory at the top left, you can easily give it like 2 factories worth of like resources and maybe prevent them better. Tiga in the chat says Team Demos does that. Oh, okay. I'm actually curious now. How do we determine this? Oh, this seems very random. How do they choose these values? So they built their last factory here. And their last factory had, what? Less metal than usual and less water than usual. But what do they do with that factory? They can only build 1 heavy. I guess they can kind of get away with giving less metal to some factories since they only use 1 heavy anyway. But interesting to see nonetheless. Yeah, there's definitely a bit of like game theory. Tiga says it's hard to do. Your placement depends on other players' placement, and you have to decide on what to give your last 2 factories at the point you place the first of the 2. Yeah. Sometimes I guess somehow reactionary strategies are possible, but very much dependent on what you might expect in the future. So looking at this game, I'm curious how the bottom left pans out. Just how strong is this agent, and how come red won? My guess is like somewhere in the middle. Red's 3v2 kind of advantage in this area probably helped them win. And win a big chunk of this land with lots of ice here and ore. Bottom left, there's actually a very tight space, so I don't think Team Blue can actually do very much. They're kind of very much closed in. So let's see. The top left is actually very, very free. I'm surprised this top left part didn't help Team Blue win a bit more, but maybe it's because they have no ore. But like they can just grow like an uninterrupted for quite a bit of time. But the problem is again, like if you don't mine any ore, or you don't have a factory trying to mine the ore, like Team Red literally has every unit on the ore tiles. So having more ore tiles nearby actually does help. You can mine some of them with light units, which seems to have given him like just a small amount of edge in the metal mining industry. Like looking at this, it's just a very small edge on Team Red. And it's only till like later game, I guess it's because they started showing their units, they're able to mine a lot more. But that small edge might have been sufficient for Team Red to like really trample Team Blue. Yeah. Yeah, Team Red is doing a very good job obtaining this side, and I think they're just about to send one heavy to kind of ruin the top left. What turn is it? It's turn 662. So this is probably about when that top left heavy is about to wreak havoc completely on the top left. But actually it looks like he lost a unit. This unit couldn't survive. I guess this is because it doesn't have enough power. It went all this way and has no way of getting more power. Let's see. Oh, got destroyed then. So it has 1,000 power here, but these heavies here have a lot more power. But how did it get destroyed? So it looks like this heavy. Let's see. Yeah, it seems like this heavy just didn't move. Yeah, let's try to recharging, but it's recharging right next to an aggressive heavy here. Yeah, interesting. I'm actually curious, how did they plan this? Was there any way to plan this? Because the very next action of Ryan Andy's moved down, and Team Red made the mistake of recharging when they really shouldn't be recharging at such a precarious location. Could be probably a faulty logic here. But yeah, they started digging a little bit. But yeah. So these lower light units are starting to dig away a little bit. When did they really start losing Lycan? Oh, actually, maybe it's the bottom right. So yeah, the bottom right they started losing quite a bit. Oh, wow. Okay. Let's look at the leaderboard. It's looking more and more likely that Tiga's gonna win it, unless they lose a couple of games to Demos. But they will have to lose like 10 games? Well, maybe about like 5 games to Demos before they lose their ranking. Because every game they might lose about like plus or minus 4 points. So yeah. Siesta seems to be pretty set though, but I don't think anyone's gonna catch him now, unless someone submits a new bot now. There's not enough time to kind of evaluate those bots. Let's see. Let's look at these two teams. We haven't seen much of this team. There's actually quite a big gap here. I wonder what the gap is between these two teams. What is the difference? So they don't actually play the other teams that much. Oh, I put Ryan Andy here. Let's see. Wow, that is very dominant. Let's see how this game pans out. Interestingly, the center of the map seems to always generate a D. I think this is just an artifact of our map generation code, but it's interesting to see that it always generates a D of like ore tiles. I saw this on a previous map as well. But otherwise, a very interesting map to look at. Like you have all these little caves, little inlets and stuff. Yeah. It's nice to see that both teams do try to use both types of units to like mine and dig things. And some of them try to fight it out too, interestingly. So yeah, I think this might have just been. Let's see. I wonder how Team Red could improve here. Yeah, I think there's also somehow value in like when you're doing factory placement, you want to place factories such that they're not too far away from each other. Like these two factories, their units can combine and destroy one factory easily. They can just send all of them over and collectively work to kind of just like dig out that one factory's like liking fields. And suddenly it's a 2v1 situation. You have one factory in the bottom left working by itself, and two factories on the right with complete freedom to do everything. And that's probably what happened here. So yeah, we see the blue units very close by, destroying everything, and now their lichen fields are going to start growing unboundedly. So it would be crazy to see this. I'm actually curious to see if any teams actually transfer resources from one factory to another. There's one thing that we were hoping to see people do, but I don't think we see a lot, is like sometimes you might have one factory that's good at mining metal or ore, because they're near the ore tiles, and one factory is near all the ice tiles to mine that water. And then you would just transfer the resource between two factories with light units, which can travel very fast and cost very little power. But it seems like this isn't done as often. Yeah, I can't really tell if I see any units transferring resources from one factory to another. But yeah, very effective. They're trying to get rid of this factory's units. Team Red actually lost all its heavies somehow. And yeah, it's a lot of lichen grown. And that's actually starting from a very tight patch. There's very little zero level tiles. Okay, look at some other teams. Where's the other? So we actually have interesting languages. I think Team Rookcliffe is using GoKit. I don't know if they're still using it, but they helped make one. They might still be using it. Team Paradise here is also a JavaScript agent. They helped make part of the JavaScript kit. I wonder if we can see a match between those two. Oh, and we can see a match between the Rust code. So Rusty Rulebase, I believe, is a Rust kit. Someone asked in chat, I'm wondering how many teams are doing relaying, such that one team has a chain of power to mine, which should reverse to later have a chain of resources going to the factory. Tiga definitely does that. I don't actually know how many other teams do it. I mean, clearly doing it is actually somewhat useful, because Tiga's team is quite high up. I don't know how effective it is, but he can probably answer a bit better about how effective the strategy that is. Ooh, we're gonna have a very interesting tussle at the top left here. Seems like Team Red wins, though. I think Team Blue is not aggressive enough. If you have three factories at the top left, cornering one, you should really be like destroying that factory. That's a lot of lichen here that's being growing unboundedly. And probably, if you remove this factory's lichen, you probably could have won the game for Team Blue. Yeah, you can. I mean, I guess not every team has like attacking strategies written yet. There's actually quite a lot of heavy units. They build a lot of heavy units, but I don't think they're doing anything. Yeah, I'm curious. What are these heavy units doing? Are they just waiting? Yeah, this seems to be waiting and doing nothing. Well, Team Blue has room to grow, for sure. Yeah, they submitted 5 hours ago. Maybe they have a better bot up now. This is this team. I'm curious how this RL agent plays against some of the stronger bots. Do they have to play against Ryandy? Okay. Something interesting that people have been discussing in the Discord is that with the RL agent, when they play, well, we don't actually know how they train, but I suspect they train with self-play, where they train against their own agent. And if they're training against their own agent, there's potential for like local minima, where like your own agent learns good behavior to play well against like crappy bots. And so if you can easily design a very specific like adversarial policy or rule-based agent that directly targets demos. Yeah, like for something I noticed, for example, like Team Demos, oh, they destroyed their own heavy. Team Demos will only build heavies. Oh, they built one light unit. I have never seen this happen before. This is a revelation. Does a new bot build lights units now? Interesting. But yeah, I was gonna say, Team Demos probably doesn't have a lot of like training time spent playing games against super aggressive bots like Ryandy. They're able to like effectively like mine out your lichen. So as a result, if you design strategies targeting that, if you design strategies targeting the fact that they only do certain things, you can easily kind of defeat their agent no matter how good they are. Like they might train a very good general agent, but certain counter strategies will work well. Yeah, I thought Team Red here only built heavies, but apparently they sometimes build lights. They built 2 here. They also made quite a lot of mistakes. Like if you look at the factory down here, they actually lost their heavy immediately. So looking at this factory, oh, why did this factory disappear? Did it self-destruct? Wait. So this heavy here will spawn and immediately self-destructed. I guess this is a downside of random sampling. Sorry, not pure random, but like non-deterministic policies. Well, like a downside of this is that occasionally Team Red, they will sample an action from their model that's really bad, even though with low probability, it will eventually happen. If you play enough games. So we notice. I mean, I want to share this one. This is actually pretty funny. What step this is? This is step 1. Okay. It's interesting. Oh, were people chatting general chat? I didn't see anything. Oh, someone just said something. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep this in watch this match. I'm pretty sure this probably lost Team Red the game like immediately, destroying their own heavy, because this factory here is not surviving. Well, interesting to see that this heavy here went over from this heavy and kind of like associate itself with the new factory. Yeah, this heavy started here. If you watch it, it starts moving to the other factory instead. Which is quite interesting. It seems like it was like kind of pulled. Maybe it was trying to support both factories and ended up failing. Like it went back to the original factory as well, but it couldn't keep it alive. Surprisingly, the factory that lost a heavy on the very first turn is the last one standing. Yeah, interesting. Somehow that factory is the one that survived. Yeah, this is very, very pretty looking at lichen fields. Actually, very, very interesting to see it. Like, why is the lichen growing like this? Normally, the lichen should grow kind of like gradually outbound. Like, starts with very dense lichen near a factory and then kind of smooths out. Was there like... Oh, it's because the opponent tried to dig out lichen. But how did they grow the lichen back? Oh, this lichen is kind of connected. Oh, all this lichen's connected. Interesting. Where are they connected by? I guess there's still some lichen here. Yeah. A big lichen feels like this is very hard to stop it growing, like the edges. Like you see this is already losing some lichen. But the moment they connect one tile back to this little patch here, it'll start growing again. When does it start growing again? It'll start growing. Yeah, it's already starting to grow again now. There must have been one of these tiles connected it back. So you kind of want to cut things off at choke points. Like if you look at this lichen field here, if you cut off a line here and just add rubble here, you immediately cut all the lichen here. But interesting strategy. Now I'm actually very curious. What else is Timo doing? And also, actually, I need to keep watching the leaderboard. If I forget, it's 4 p.m. or 11:59. I don't want to award the wrong people. Yeah, very much looks like Tiga and Siesta are gonna be the ones who are top 2. Is there another game from Demos? Let's look at this one. Let's choose this one. Actually, I'm curious. Does Harm ever lose to Demos? No, they're only losing against Brian Anty. Okay. Let's look at this match. Does Demos do anything funky? Growing lichen very early. Not necessarily a bad idea, but do they build lights at all? Oh! Demos does build lights. They built some at the end of the game. Yeah. The reason why I keep talking about this is because it's quite hard. Well, not quite hard, but from what I've heard from their team, their agents tend to learn only to build factories because they're the most effective, like short term. But light units tend to also be quite effective, but like over the long term, it's very hard to measure like the credit assignment. A big problem in reinforcement learning is credit assignment, and probably what's happening is very hard to figure out like how effective the light units are in contributing to a win in a game. Because they probably do very little things, but only are effective when there's a large number of them. So you notice like Team Blue here, it does a really good job when you have multiple units lining up to transfer resources or multiple units working together to like mine out lichen. So it's the kind of collective behavior it's very hard to learn. It's possible, but there might be some additional tricks needed. But when did they build the light units? They build one at the end of the game. I wonder if they kind of do wacky things, if they see things that are not in the training distribution. Oh, and also I think we should announce the winners soon, but Let's see. Is it official? I wait for timer. Oops. Yeah, but like if an RL agent sees something that's never seen before, like in a map, it might end up doing some like very unbounded things, like things outside of its support. Where like let's say it's seen some weird configuration of robots on the map that's never seen before, it might do something super random that's not what it was trained to do. So like building lights at the end of the game like that is something that's probably never done before, and that might be because it's never seen this kind of configuration before of units. All right. Time to announce the awards. All right, it's 4 p.m. 11:59. Congratulations to Team Siesta Guru and Team Tiga for winning the second sprint. I'm going to announce in Discord. All right. All right. I don't know if does anyone else have any questions or want to chat about anything? Otherwise, I'm gonna close the stream very soon. So, yeah. Congratulations again to Team Siesta Guru and Tiga for making up the next two places. Yeah, very hard fought battle. Demos is very close, but if they somehow can train a more stable RL agent, maybe they could have done better. Yeah, like self-destructing your own heavy is not exactly the best strategy, but that's what happens when you have reinforced learners. Sometimes they do something bad. But yeah, that'll be it for the stream today. And yeah, see y'all next time potentially. Bye bye.